It's very important that you learn what this ready stance or the second stance is, because it prepares us for everything we want to do. And it helps us control our movement and body at the end of the movement as well, to ensure that we stay stable and the movement happens easier and more smoothly. So I will frequently remind you about getting into this ready stance because it is so very important. If you don't, those people with a restricted posture will be up here trying to begin their movement. Here, they're not ready to begin any movement. You have to relax out of this to be able to get here to now have a more functional posture so your body is better able to do what you're asking it to do. So that's the importance of it. But agreeably, there is so much that you need to understand and remember about your different postures and movements that it becomes confusing up here. It becomes confusing because you're trying to intellectually understand it up here, but you get lost up here in thinking about what comes next and what you're supposed to do, when in fact, what you're really trying to do is understand how you're using all of it down here. How do you get your body to assume all these different postures, stances, and get ready for these movements? That's the job down here. You need to have that feeling of where's the pressure? What's the pressure needing to be for this stance, for this movement I want to do? How do I get comfortable in that? How do I keep my body relaxed to be able to use that pressure? Because that's the most important. For your movements, that's where it's at. That's where your focus needs to be, not up here. Not thinking about what you think you're supposed to be doing or how to go about it. It's an entirely different focus. When you get to that point where you can understand and trust it and put it together, you're going to stop thinking about it so much. Yes, in the beginning, you have to think about it, to process it, but you have to be practicing it to be able to get it down here. So it's easier to use and it makes more sense. Because if you understand and trust the feeling that you need to be able to, since we're in the ready stance, do this, then that movement is dependent on that feeling. So your focus is on how do I get that feeling where I want it to be, where it needs to be. And what is it, by the way? We covered it before many times. It's you're up here in this first stance and you want to come down into this. Now, while I'm here, this ready stance doesn't have to be just right here. It can be up here, it can be down here, it can be all in between here and here, wherever, depending on what it is you want to do and where you personally need to be for that movement you want to do. There's no right or wrong of where you have to be. So, back to the question. And the question was, where does that pressure need to be? Flat feet. And now what did I just do? I went from here to here. My shoulders came forward just a little bit because remember, those people with the restricted posture are normally up here a little bit too far with their shoulders. And look at the woman that I'm working with in this video. Look what her stance is and look at what she needs to do. The exact same thing to come forward to put that pressure where on your feet? Flat, equal pressure throughout your foot, evenly distributed. Why? Because that's where you're the most stable. And once you get there with your shoulders coming forward, then you can start to more easily relax hands, arms, shoulders, let them go down, and then it's knees and hips starting to flex. And when you're doing that, what do you want to be able to do? What's the important part about letting all this stuff work, coming down from this first stance and down into the second? The important part is holding the pressure stable. Holding the pressure stable and feeling it increase. Many times you have to go further down to get that feeling, to reproduce that, to get these muscles working a little bit better. And then you just come back up a little bit. Now, let's cover another point about this. Using all that stuff I just covered, there's another very important component that goes with all this. Okay, I brought my shoulders forward. I got that pressure even in my feet. Now I want to bend these knees and hips. Oh yeah, I need to relax these arms. Now, what is the other thing that I need to do? I'm about to start a movement. Yes, it's only from here to here, but it is still a movement. And every movement begins and ends with what? An increased push pressure down to our feet. Now, in the beginning, you're just going to feel that happening, getting these muscles to work better as you're relaxing and coming down. Hamstrings, quads are also working by relaxing. Hamstrings are working by contracting, and yeah, these muscles back here, the glutes are also working, all of them pushing pressure down in there just because they're starting to do the job they're designed to do. So, shoulders forward, relax, feel that pressure being pushed down into your feet, and that is going to help you stabilize that pressure and hold it into one place, holding your posture where it needs to be. That's why many of you need to come down further than you really need to. And then when you start to relax and come up, what do? You push down, you keep pushing down to relax up. That pressure stays there. The pressure you feel here, you need to hold that pressure and push yourself up. Not lead yourself up by your shoulders, because that creates a problem. Now, this same woman that I just showed you before, when she's standing up, look at the mistake she's making. And what is it? Shoulders are coming way back. She's leading her standing back up with her shoulders. And big problem, shoulders go too far, they go too far back. Now, she's able to stay on her flattened feet because look at what her hips are doing. Her hips are going way forward as her shoulders are coming back. That was her saving grace. But it's not shoulders leading the movement. All movement that we do is done from down here. Our legs, our feet. So when you're coming back up, you're pushing yourself back up. And as you push yourself back up, as your knees and hips start to extend or straighten, your shoulders start to come up in the same proportion of the movement to counterbalance these changing position of the joints and other body parts, to keep you balanced, to keep you stable on your feet, to keep that pressure from moving on your feet, to hold it right where it's at. And then you stop. Where? Meaning, how high should I go? How much should I come up? Well, a good point is when, let me go this way. A good point is when these knees are still partially flexed. When the hips are still partially flexed, as you come up, you pause. Then if you want to come up further, I don't care. It doesn't matter. You come up to where you feel comfortable and where you want to be. But the reason to pause here is you want to keep control of your knees and your hip movement and your shoulder movement. Then you're pausing, make sure you still have pressure there, and then allowing yourself to relax up while still holding all that pressure down to your feet. So what you want to be able to do is, as you're just starting this coming down, just starting to flex those knees and hips, that's when you want to start feeling that increased pressure. That's going to take you a little bit to get there, but that's what you're searching for. So you're starting that push down and you're moving your body down into that pressure. Let me say that another way. You're allowing your body just to relax down into that pressure. That doesn't take any effort or any control at all. You're just letting go in the sense of relaxing the muscles enough, trusting them enough, trusting your body to that increased pressure at your feet, and just woof, there I am. There's no question about that. It's taken this out of it, boom, there you are, and then back up. You're pushing your body up from your feet and allowing your relaxed body to do what it already knows how to do. If you can maintain that relaxation in your posture and just continue pushing down into the floor, you'll find that it is so much easier to maintain your balance, control that pressure, and just feel so much more comfortable in your movement. For those of you with a mild problem, this is going to happen fairly easily. For those with a grounded problem, not so much. It's going to take quite a bit of work. And it takes a while to get out of your head enough to relax and just feel that. And those with a more of a severe problem, you're going to have a tough time with this because you have so much work that you need to be doing back here in this first stance before you're going to have the ability to control that pressure, to relax your body. There's so much up here going on to get through that. The stiffness is more, the fear is greater. So it just takes time. Everybody is on their own scale of how quickly or how long it takes them to go from one step to the other. Don't try to compete with anybody, even yourself. Just take it one day at a time and work on the basics, and it'll start coming, believe me. Working to get rid of the physiological stiffening and psychological stiffening. Now back to a point that I continually make and did earlier in this video is you need to reduce the amount of thinking that it takes to do some of this or to do all of this stuff and to use these pressures in your feet more and more and more. That's where your trust and understanding is the priority. Now, there are some of you who will try to memorize all of this. You'll try to memorize what I've written in the book, and you try to memorize what you're seeing here, and then you will try to remember what it is you have memorized and how it applies to this or that, and you'll get this stuff all screwed up. You won't be able to do squat because you're trying to think about this memory of what comes, where it comes, where to use it, how to use it, and oh, wait a minute, I think that was there. You become lost in this thought and spinning into more thought, and your body is saying, shut up! This is the important part. This is what you depend on for your movements. This is what you depend on for your stability. Everything standing on your feet, that's where the control is, not up here. Don't try to memorize this stuff. Yes, there's a lot of stuff to understand, but your best understanding is coming down here of how to use it. And then all this stuff starts to come into clarity. All this stuff will require much less thought, and then it'll just be some focus points that you need to use for what you've come up with, for what you need to do, what you need to feel. That's where you need to go with this. Can't stress that enough. And now let me add just another little thing. It's like a dog with a bone that just won't let go of it. But this stuff of using it, not trying to memorize it, is just so important. Remember, you're taking this intellectual understanding of all this and putting it into a practical understanding. And that practical understanding, there's no memorization to it other than this is what I need to do this. This is the pressure I need to use for that. This feels right. Ha! This feels right. That's all you need to know. And once you achieve that, everything is in place. Once you have the correct pressure down here, that's telling you this is right. If the pressure is not right, like right here, my shoulders are back a little bit, this pressure doesn't feel right, and you're there and saying, well, I'm trying to get in this ready stance, but this doesn't feel right. I'm a little bit unsteady. Oh, I feel like I'm going back. Oh, just relax. Shoulders come forward, and that comes forward in your feet. It's a practical memorization. There again, not the best word to use for that, but it's all in the feeling. Now, the dog with the bone. Sorry, but in trying to gain that feeling, you almost have to have a toddler mentality. I always use the analogy of the baby learning how to become a toddler. That's exactly what we're doing here, but only on the adult level. So the toddler mentality is just learn how to use it. That's all they're doing. Yes, you are correct. They don't have the capability of thinking about what it is they're doing, nor do they care. All they want to do is use it to be able to go places, do things as their body is maturing. Well, you as the adult, get that toddler mentality as much as you can of, I just need to be able to use this. I don't want to think about it so much. I just want to be able to use it. The toddler mentality. Now, within that, we covered quite a bit, even though it doesn't seem like we covered very much. But as I've said before, that's where all of this stuff is. It's just in the basic stuff, it's repetition over and over again. Here, we've just gone and we've complicated the movement a little bit because now our body parts are starting to move a little bit more, hips and knees and shoulders. So we're becoming a little more dynamic in that. So the control of the posture is paramount. And without that control, none of this works, which is why your movements have become as bad as they have. Your relaxed posture controls the pressure in your feet. It controls the location of the pressure in your feet and the amount of that pressure. That pressure tells you where your body is. It tells you what your posture is. If you set your posture, that sets the pressure in your feet. It sounds like I said the same thing there, and I did, but I said it from two different points. One, I said the pressure in your feet sets your posture. Then I said the posture sets the pressure in your feet. So in the early stages here, you're thinking about how do I adjust my posture to get that correct pressure on my feet. Well, what you're learning with this, and what I've been saying is, once you know what that pressure is supposed to be, then you just move into that pressure. Well, how do you do that? Many of you are saying. Well, from the first stance, you come on flat feet. And then you just relax and let it happen. If you recognize that pressure, understanding it and trusting it, and then you move into it without thinking about what you're doing with your body, you are going to be exactly where you need to be in your posture and in that pressure. So the pressure, you use that. We learn to use that naturally from the toddler up. This is the pressure I need. And your body is exactly where it needs to be. You're just learning the opposite to be able to get back to, there's the pressure. That's why I say there's no memorization in this. It's just learn what those pressures are supposed to be, relax into them, and your body will be there exactly where it needs to be. Earlier in this video, I mentioned that the ready stance is what we use to get into and out of every movement we do. It is the transitional stance for all the other ones, for all of our movements. We go from ready stance to the first stance, from the first stance to the ready stance, before we can do any of the other ones. Now, yes, the ready stance, if I continue that, there's the third. That's just squatting down and then come back up. And I want to stop in the ready stance so I'm more stable near my feet. I get in the ready stance to be able to do the fourth, which is transferring body weight to one and then doing a sideways stride. And then I start and stop in the ready stance. And I try to stay in that ready stance as I'm doing it. And same thing with the forward stride. I don't start from up here, which is where many of you do. You started from here. You started with a flex body. Taking that stride forward. Stop. Ready stance. Even backward stride. Ready stance. What about the sixth one? Forward lunge, squat. And then just ready stance. Coming back out of it. If you, for example, come into this first stride and then you come back into that first stance, come up too far, you're falling out of it. You become unstable. And the same thing here. I'm in the ready stance, I come too far and I'm unstable. It's imperative you stop in this ready stance, the second stance, to maintain your stability and postural control. That's imperative that you learn to do that. That's probably enough in this video to hold you for a little while, give you a lot to practice on. Keep it simple, focus on the pressure in your feet, and we'll see you in the next video.